Hello, my name is Maria Paula Flores, and today I will be talking about the intercultural problem that exists between Ecuadorians and Venezuelan migrants. We walked for 11 days and had to sleep outside. We left because they threatened to kill us. My brother was killed, and they almost killed me too. That's what Ana, a Venezuelan woman in Ecuador, said. Have you ever thought about leaving your country? I hope not. More than 4 million of refugees and migrants from Venezuela and around the world. More than 464,229 asylum seekers from Venezuela and around 1,800,000 people living under other legal forms of stay in the Americas are the official figures from United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in this year. People continue to leave Venezuela to escape from violence, insecurity, and threats, as well as the lack of food, medicine, and essential services. It takes more than 3 days for a Venezuelan to arrive to Ecuador. They are excited to receive a salary in dollars, and that is why they want to stay in this country. The majority of them try to send at least $20 a month to their families in Venezuela. But is it fair for them to earn less than the basic salary when they work even more than the Ecuadorians? This is a problem that Ecuador is trying to fix. Ecuador tried to find regional solutions to the massive emigration of Venezuelans, the biggest humanitarian crisis facing the continent with more than 2 million of migrants. And the question here is, why is migration a problem? Many Ecuadorians feel that Venezuelans are taking their place in several jobs because they work harder and earn less money. And so Ecuadorians are losing their jobs and their income. But why is this an intercultural problem? Because of xenophobia. In January 2019, the New York Times published an article called Xenophobia in Ecuador pushes Venezuelan migrants to leave the country. Xenophobia is defined as the dislike or prejudice against people from other countries. During this week, I asked several people about how do they feel whenever they see Venezuelans in the streets and why do they think migration is a problem. And the answers I got were because of rumors, bad experiences, because they're people from other country, because they already have prejudices about them, because violence has increased in Ecuador, and because they feel Venezuelans do not search for work. And I asked them, why don't you, instead of being xenophobic, be grateful with the Venezuelans who teach their kids not to steal, or the ones who keep smiling when they lost everything? Or why do you do not support the ones who have a family and work hard? Or why aren't you grateful whenever you had an excellent experience with a Venezuelan? But exactly because of this, the United Nations is trying to fight against xenophobia in Ecuador with this campaign, Abrazos que unen. There are also some intercultural components of conflict that we should understand. Just remember that there is no nation, culture, or human being that does not experience conflict. It's important to remember behavior. What is considered appropriate behavior for some might not be for others. This component we might not totally understand because there is not an aggressive behavior or something that it is wrong. It is just something people feel uncomfortable with. Conflict. It is true that in every culture we can find conflict, but the motives and solutions are different. We should try to even avoid them or solve them. Differences. It is important to assume differences when we talk about intercultural conflict. And here is the clue. Remember that each culture is different, but do not judge them. Instead, try to accept the differences in a positive way. Human behavior. Remember that culture is unique and that human behavior cannot be explained without first understanding the influence that culture has. And this is very important because if we want to understand someone's behavior or why do people act in a certain way, then we should first understand their culture or the influence of it in their actions. Response to pain. Most people respond to pain through an aggressive behavior. The article about xenophobia is just an example of this. Just try not to have an aggressive behavior if you feel uncomfortable with something, because today are Venezuelans, but tomorrow it could be us. So, what are the possible solutions to prevent future conflicts? First, integration. This component tries to find solutions that are satisfactory for both sides of the conflict. For example, I would say we should be open to welcome them as well as they need to adapt to us. Accommodation. With this component, we try to give into the necessities and wishes of the other person. Just try to be kind with Venezuelans because what if it was you that was in the same situation? Compromise. With this component, we give something to receive something. Just treat them and help them as you would like to be treated or helped. As I told you before, today are Venezuelans, but tomorrow it could be us. Avoidance. When we're talking about this component, we mean ignore the conflict and pretend that it doesn't exist. Try not to be aggressive with people. If you feel uncomfortable with migration, try to understand them and try not to think that they are here or that they are part of the problem. If they do not harm you, then do not harm them. Tolerance is also something very important. Remember that conflict can help us grow as person, culture, or country. In this case, if we are more tolerant to migration, then we will grow as country and culture. Finally, adapt. Just try to adapt to these differences in a positive way. Try to accept Venezuelans and be a little bit more open minded. I hope you enjoyed and thanks for watching.
Yo nací en este país que a veces me echa para atrás, a veces me resigno, a veces me quiero escapar.
Pero yo nací aquí y aquí aprendí a caminar.